2 o'clock in Philadelphia. And time for the best show ever. Now, your starting lineup. Bringing the heat. Ricky Calico. Hunter. Brody. Jen Scordo. And finally, your host, Tyrone Johnson. It's the best show ever. On 97.5, the Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Good afternoon. Boy, is it a good time to be in the city of Philadelphia if you like sports. We're going to have a full show today. We'll have Nick Sirianni's press conference around 2:45. E.J. Smith from The Inquirer at 4. Jeff Mosher around 5:30. So let's get it started right away with our opening statements. Yes, here on 97.5 The Fanatic at NBC Sports Philadelphia, we start with the word of the day. The word of the day today is complete, because the Eagles are a complete team. The offense is real. The defense is real. All of a sudden, the coaching on both sides of the ball looks real. They are now the betting favorites to come out of the NFC, have the best odds to win the whole thing out of the NFC. This football team is a complete and really just a good football team. And every week we have different questions, and every week they come up with better answers. Now, right away, I want to mention this right at the top. There are people out there concerned about the second half, and I'm here to tell you that it's silly, and I'll use the word silly and not stupid, but it's silly. It's wrong. This team keeps getting leads. Our complaint, now think about this, 3-0, the now betting favorites to come out of the NFC, and the takeaway from people are, oh no, when they keep getting these huge leads, they're not just tripling up on the leads after they get huge leads, but they're not giving up any of that lead. Like, think about that for a moment. Think about that. Jalen Hurts starts 1 for 5. Looks a little sloppy early. They punt the first 2 drives. After that, you get field goal, touchdown. Should have been at least 3, not a great 4th down play call. Touchdown, and the game's over. It's 24-0. The defense sacked Carson Wentz 9 times. Now, I will admit, Carson Wentz holds the ball longer. I mean, there's so many euphemisms I could use. I don't want to use them. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to get everybody else in trouble. But boy, does he hold the ball a long time. But at the same time, they didn't have to blitz. They were able to. Fletcher Cox is getting in there. Sweat's getting in there. Brandon Graham turns back the clock. On defense, the linebackers look fast. The secondary looks excellent. They didn't score, as far as Washington, the offense, till the 4th quarter. In fact, the safety, the Eagles' offense scored for them before Washington's offense scored for them. This was what you do. This is how you draw it up. I'm going to tell everybody what, and we'll talk about it all day today. If the Eagles keep getting double-digit leads, I'm going to tell you that they're going to win a lot of football games, and you're not going to care about what goes on going forward. Trust me on this. I can understand if you disagree. The quarterback. 3 touchdowns, 300 yards. It's just ho-hum at this point. We have now come to expect it. We now expect a quarterback to play at the highest of levels. Why? Because this is a complete team. Gannon, we all have our questions about Gannon going in, but now this is 2 weeks in a row where he had the perfect game plan for the opponent. That's all you can do. Did it look exactly the same as the Vikings? No, because it didn't need to. They didn't need to blitz 10 times. They didn't need to do that because the front four is winning. So what you do is you make Carson Wentz have to speed up his sundial clock. This is happening on both sides of the ball. That DeVonta Smith. Oh, after week 1, he didn't have any catches. Did you see how dominant he was? And did you see the cape? Did you see the cape? The Batman cape? This team is good. I don't want to hear a whole lot of complaining about second halves. Well, let me ask you this. If your team's up 24-0 and the other team cannot generate any offense organically, what would you prefer? Them to take chances to push the ball, which could lead to a turnover, which is the only way the other team can score? Or do you do what they did, which is control the whole game? You didn't have to sweat at all. If you wanted to start drinking, if you're a drinker, at halftime, you were good. You weren't going to miss any comeback. This team is dominant. This is a complete football team. And last week, the Super Bowl talk's too early. Is it? Look around the NFL. Who's good? Who in the NFC is good? Tampa, or do they look good? I mean, they may end up being good. Who looks as good as the Eagles right now in this NFC? We'll get to the AFC because not that many teams over there either. There's only 2 3-0 teams. We'll find out if the Giants, who aren't very good, get to 3-0. This is a complete football team. We should be in a good mood. There should be nothing but rainbows. This is the last warm day for a while. I want some happiness. Hunter Brody, are you happy?
Oh, am I happy there, Tyrone? Are you kidding me? Look, when you look at this team, okay, they passed another test. Week 1 was about getting past the blitzes. Week 2 was about making all the simple throws because Minnesota was playing soft coverage. Here, it's not like the run game was dominant. They weren't able to run the ball as well as I thought that they should be, but they trusted their receivers, and now they check that off their checklist of being able to throw 50-50 balls, and DeVonta Smith brings it home, whether he's getting body slammed at the goal line or they're running plays that's not even in the playbook for that week, and he goes up and grabs it. And let's say we go to that one play where Ron Rivera should have threw the flag, and he didn't get it out in time. Okay, maybe there was a bit of a bobble, and it shouldn't have counted. But Jalen Reagor ain't doing that. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside ain't doing it. The fact that you could even make that play to possibly get lucky and get a big-time chunk and move the chains. I mean, that's what DeVonta Smith brings to the table. So between him and A.J. Brown, those two are unreal. I wonder how much. We touched on it throughout the offseason, but maybe not enough. Now that Jalen Hurts is in the same offense for a second year, and that hasn't been the case throughout his college tenure because of him going to Oklahoma, then him in Philadelphia, a lot of change within what he was running. A comfortability factor with him in the playbook, and there's different talent, so that does definitely add a new layer to it. But I'll tell you what, the Joe Burrow loss to Dallas on the road last week. You got the way that Buffalo loses this week. Teams lose, okay? And the fact that you look as dominant as you do through 3, and there's still a goose egg in that loss column, I don't want to hear the negativity either. If the score is 13-13 late third quarter, I don't think you see the same play call. Right. So that's kind of how I am processing this one. Ricky Bo.
Wow. I got to tell you, I look at this team, and this is by far the best team in the NFC. I don't. Go ahead, watch the other games. You tell me one team that looks as good as the Eagles. Jalen Hurts stayed in the pocket a lot more yesterday. Outstanding. He's got receivers that will go up and make the plays for him. He knows exactly what he's doing. Now he's calling his own plays that aren't even in the script. I think this is beautiful. This is a guy, and Hunter, you just kind of hit on it, that has learned. And he's learned his position. He knows what he needs to do. He knows what he needs to do to make his team better every play. I'm not even talking about every series. It's every play. He wants to do something better for this team. He is right where you want him to be. But I'll tell you right now, that defense smacked Carson Wentz right in his stinking mouth right off the bat. You want to make a statement? How about the statement on the first series? That's all you need to know about this Eagles team. And like I was just saying, when you look around the league, take a look at how fast this defense is. The linebackers are flying all over the place. Reddick is all over the place. The defensive ends are everywhere, especially in yesterday's game. This team, I'm going to tell you right now, I've said this from the beginning when I looked at their schedule. Tell me a loss. Go ahead and look in that and tell you a loss. And you know where people will go? Down to the Green Bay Packers. And you know what you'll say? I saw them play yesterday. They're not that good. And to me, this Eagles team is the best in the NFC.
I think so, too. They're not going to go 17-0, but I know that's not what you were saying.
No.
You're going to
have a hiccup. You're going to have a hiccup.
You're going to have it. They're just better than these other teams. And we knew about it on paper, but you don't play the games on paper. You don't play it on paper. We've seen with the Flyers recently where we thought on paper this should be a pretty good team, and then the next thing you know, they're the third worst team in the NHL. Things can happen. But this is a good football team, and I think we have to start being better. We're never, ever good in this city with prosperity. We're great at complaining. We're great at losing. Like, we're lovable losers. No more of that. This is a good football team, and every week is going to be, it's only 2 games. It's only 3 games. Soon it'll be, it's only 9 games. At some point, there's going to be somebody that calls at 610-632-0975 saying it's only 14 games. You got to wait. This team, trust your eyeballs. This team's good. Now let's hear from Jen Scordo. She has the Twitter poll. Hello, Jen.
Hello. Are you concerned by the Eagles' lack of scoring in the second half?
There you go.
You can answer no, they always have the lead. Yes, keep the pressure on, or just win the game. Those are your three answers to choose from. Right now, it's actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Here in the early votes, of course, 28% say yes, just keep the pressure. 31% just win the game. 41% no, they always have the lead.
And that's where I'm at. If they didn't have leads, first of all, you just want to win the game. So second of all, because one is win or 3-0. Second of all, you can't tell that the plays that they're calling in the second half are not the same kind of plays that they're calling in the first half. Now, Hunter, if somebody wants to say, oh, they didn't run the ball well enough in that game, fair. But also, I think you have to give some of the credit to Washington's front up the middle. Allen and them clearly was healthy. Those guys are good football players. Believe it or not, even with that quarterback, Washington's not going to be bad. Like the Eagles made them look bad. They're going to win 6-7 games. They're not going to be horrible because that defense is a pretty stout defense. And early, the quarterback didn't have a lot of windows early. They were close. Now, DeVonta, after a while, you just throw it up, and DeVonta was snatching from, didn't need a big window. But those they can cover. They have a decent front. They're going to get guys back. That's actually not, and look at what happened to Minnesota. They made Minnesota look terrible. They come back and win. The Eagles are just good. It's not necessarily people want to say, oh, the schedule, the tougher teams. You don't know who a tougher team is.
Everybody should just take a deep breath. Your team's winning, and they're winning decisively at this. The first game, okay. I think everybody's thrown that one out the window, and you look at the next two games. They have been dominant on defense. Isn't that what you want?
Yes.
And your quarterback's doing a hell of a job. What is there to complain about right now?
And look at the ball security.
Just watch out, Britton Covey.
Yeah, he might not make it.
He's getting destroyed.
He might not make it. But another point to this, too, is it's not as if these guys are unaware. I heard Brandon Graham speak after the game, and he dated back to the Lions win, and he looked at that as that was a big learning curve for us because we saw what happens when we take our foot off the gas.
Right.
So then they adapted, and the last two games look completely different.
Right.
So they're not stupid. They see that their second half is not as point production heavy, and that will change because there's too much talent on this team where, look, they're winning games and they're 3-0. I think by week 7, week 8, week 9, we're not going to be stressing about how they look in some of these second halves.
It's going to be a close game at halftime at some point.
And be grateful. They talked about taking the foot off the gas. A lot of teams don't learn that until they lose in a certain situation. They won that game.
They won the game. You're right.
So, I mean, it's all about learning, right? Yep. Every single game you have to learn, you have to adjust. Well, they learned something without blowing the game.
That's the key. Like Buffalo, they learned something.
Oh, they learned it a bad way.
They learned some stuff. Now, but they had to have a loss to do it. It's all coming together. And each week, the coaches will now have something where they can come down on the players, even though they're winning. Because after a loss, it's easy for them to come in and say, all right, just after a win, they can still go in the film room like they did today, and they'll be saying, hey, we still got to do this better. And they're good. They're good. But I know we're going to hear from you. We're not saying don't call it 610-632-0975. What we're saying is we're not going to be maybe as receptive as your buddies are to how the Eagles are so bad because of what happened in the second half of this game.
And another positive, I don't know if you guys, because I think about this because maybe it's because I played a sport. Mm-hmm. It's just the learning curve is quick. It's not taking a month.
Right.
It's not taking 4 or 5 games. It took 1 week to figure it out.
And now, did you ever, in the second half of that game, at any point, did any Eagles fan out there feel like the game was in doubt?
No,
at any moment.
That's because Carson Wentz is throwing the football. He stinks. Look, there's a lot of bad offensive lines in the NFL, and they're not getting tackled sacked 9 times and getting hit to the ground 16, 17 times. He's abysmal. Brandon Graham looked like he was 19. Is he
abysmal, or was it a shock? I mean, because when you're a quarterback, you get hit that much. It's not fun. I mean, and he's out there getting his butt kicked.
And it's not like Cousins look good.
No.
Cousins was throwing it to. So Cousins was throwing it to the other team.
What is he won?
I don't know. And then Wentz was dropping it to the other team. Either way, they're getting the ball.
That's what he does, though. We saw the ball get on the carpet, and he's trying to bounce on it. I mean, it's crazy what happens with him. He's so loose with the ball. What happened to this dude?
Well, they broke him. It was a lot of things. He's broken. Unfortunately, what we saw out there, unfortunate for him, I don't care. For him is he's a broken man out there. Like under the circumstances, so think about it. You're on your way to the MVP. You tear your ACL. Your backup wins the Super Bowl. They put up a statue while you're still the starter, and then your GM stabs you in the back, he's broken, and he'll never recover.
One day you can recover from that.
He'll never recover.
He hugged Howie.
Yeah, well, he hugged everybody.
He got a hug from Howie.
Yeah, he hugged Howie. You know, maybe he'll be the backup.
Or maybe it was a dap. I don't know.
Listen, maybe he'll be the backup. He's going to be somebody's back. He's not starting. This is it.
Yeah, but did he hug Howie because of regular life, or did he hug Howie because of football? I think that's just because of his regular life.
Yeah, I think it's religion, and he's a guy who believes in forgiveness.
He's a good
and
guy.
Stuff like that. Yeah, he's a good human being. Not a good quarterback.
No, he's not.
But good human being. And I think that literally what you saw out there on the field was the Eagles beating up on a broken man. A man that one day he'll write a book about it when he's older and he actually catches up because he's a little behind.
They weren't even announcing the offense because they knew how many Eagles fans were going to be there to boo him.
A fantastic job by Eagles fans.
They'll get him here. If he's not going to be stuck.
If that's what happened on the road, think about the hostility that's rightfully so at home.
He'll get sacked 12 times today.
They might give him a standing ovation.
He had to go silent. They had to go silent count in the red zone.
That is awful. Can you imagine that?
He's sitting there doing this. He's doing the stops, and the center's tapping. They had to go silent count in the red zone for their one touchdown.
That's pathetic.
At home.
It is pathetic.
I mean,
it's Washington, D.C. It's not a small area.
Right.
It's not Jacksonville where people want to go down there just to get the sun and watch a football.
With rabid fans and winning history. Like they do have Super Bowls. And yet still.
Yeah, but ever since they moved to that new house of horrors they have.
That's why they're building a new one.
Yeah.
Clean up that mojo. At least the railings all held up. Damon in Philly, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up, Damon?
Hey, so real quick, we know it's a shortage of quarterbacks in the league and things like that. What's another position there's a shortage of is corners. And I don't really think Bradbury, like that acquisition of Bradbury, gets enough love of what it does to that whole secondary, how we could just lock up man across the board and send the pressure at quarterbacks. And last night, me and my friend, we was comparing the active roster from yesterday's game to the active roster of the Super Bowl. And at every position group, the only group that we gave the Super Bowl team better at was safety and running back. And I just want you guys' thoughts on that and what y'all think about that.
Well, you can't, if you're judging the quarterbacks based on that year, quarterback play was impeccable. It can only be a tie. That year, Super Bowl year, the quarterback play between both guys was impeccable.
Right.
Like Jalen Hurts, he's been really good, but that can only be a push. Obviously, these wide receivers are better. That Ertz versus this Goddard, that Ertz, you can make the argument, was more accomplished.
There's more in this offense with Dallas. They haven't tapped into the full potential yet.
Yeah, I'm talking position, wide receivers better here. Running back, yes, obviously, these running backs. No. I don't know. The running backs on that Super Bowl also, though, how many guys had career years on that team? It's still yet to see whether or not they had 12 guys have career years, including the quarterback. So
I gotta give this guy an apology. I really have to because Jalen Hurts. I have to give him an apology because I was the biggest disbeliever in him. I did not like Hurts at Bama. I wasn't a big fan at Oklahoma. I wasn't a fan when we drafted him. I wasn't a fan when he got in for Carson. I wasn't a fan knowing that he's going to be the starting quarterback going into this year. I need to let Jalen Hurts know that he has made me a believer, and he has my full support. Support.
Well, at this point, it'd be silly to not.
There's a lot of people out there that are probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of them, by the way.
I was a person who was a wait and see guy.
I was a wait and see guy, too. I just like to play the devil's advocate when you were all hunky-dory over there.
I just said he needed to learn, and he's learned.
My whole thing was just let it play out. That's what, let it play out.
That's a cop-out.
No, it's not a cop-out because he hadn't done it on the field yet.
He has now.
Now he's doing it on the field. What happens is you have people who said he couldn't do it, now making mea culpas and apologizing. And then you had people who just blindly said he could do it before they saw anything, now doing the I told you so's. They didn't know either. My whole thing was he's going to be the starter, so maybe just let him play football before we anoint anybody because we should have learned something from Carson Wentz. No one would have thought that Carson Wentz on the way to the Super Bowl would be this Carson Wentz.
No one even thought that we would have that Carson Wentz after they went 7-9 under Doug Peterson.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There was no way. So things happen. That's why you just let it play out. And now I've learned this dude is the real deal.